Hi everyone and welcome to week 7. In week 7 we're going to be looking at the role of trading. And international trade plays a very important part of our economy. As you know, the U.S. struggles to compete globally in the U.S. economy, given the many challenges it's facing with regard to the higher labor cost and lack of productivity sometimes. So for this week we're going to be working on Terminal Course Objective 8, and Terminal Course Objective 9, and Terminal Course Objective 10. And each of these Terminal Course Objectives are going to have key concepts listed. Make sure to review the key concepts. These key concepts will come back as a very important aspect that you're going to be looking at on the final exam, because you could see them again. So make sure to really review those key concepts. So now, under week 7, let's click on the assignment tab. For this week, you're going to be reading chapters 37 and 38. You have 2 discussion forums. Make sure in the discussion forum that your first post is by Wednesday, and you have 2 peer responses. In your first post, you want to make sure to have an APA formatted in-text citation and reference, as that's very important as part of the requirements. And your 2 peer responses. Those should be at least 1 paragraph in length as well. You'll also have the weekly assessment, as we'll go over later on, as that'll be worth 20 points. Here is the lecture. The lecture will have a lot of important information that you can review out of these tabs right here. So make sure to really focus on those lectures and go over those concepts. You have the iConnect right here, and here's the discussion board. For the discussion this week, we're going to be looking at the role of free trade. And we'll be wondering to ourselves, is trading really free? And that's the first important question. Is trade really free? You're going to be looking at the role of NAFTA. And NAFTA is the North American Free Trade Agreement. And you're going to be looking at how NAFTA was used to help our economy and to create more trading opportunities with both our largest trading partners, Canada and Mexico. So you see that you have a lot of questions that you have to answer. I would recommend separating the questions up. I think that'll make it easiest for you to do well. And then you have the foreign exchange. Now the foreign exchange is another thing we're going to be looking at this week, because changes in the exchange rate can influence a lot of the decisions that we have to make. So the exchange rate can do 2 things. It either can appreciate or depreciate. And if the currency appreciates, you'll notice that our money can buy more of other things. It'll go farther. And if it goes farther, that means we're going to buy more imports. Now, if we look at a depreciating currency, you'll notice that more individuals, or I should say countries, will buy our goods and services because they're cheaper now, which will stimulate growth. And that'll be very important. So those are the discussion questions that we're looking at this week. For the weekly assessment, it's only going to be covering the concepts that we're looking at for this week, for chapters 36 and 37. So let's go over some of the questions. The United States, the most important trading partner. Look at the trading partner that's closest to us when you evaluate. That's going to be the most important. The trading partner that's closest to us, because the transportation costs are going to be the lowest. The World Trade Organization. What is the World Trade Organization and why was it established? The big thing with the World Trade Organization was trying to reduce trade barriers. Question 3 is looking at a balance of payments. And what does a balance of payments include? It includes the trade balance. It includes all the foreign assets and domestic assets. So we have a lot of different components in our economy that we're looking at. Question 4 is going to be looking at the exchange rate between the dollar and the yen and trying to figure out the price of this. And you'll notice that there's an equation that you can use in the book to figure that out. Question 5 is looking at the U.S. has had a large what? Out of those 4 components or answer choices, what do you think they had the largest deficit in? Question 6. Other things equal, an increase in the U.S. inflation rate is likely to lead into what? So now you have to first focus on if there's an increase in the inflation rate, you'll notice that our currency will depreciate. That is not a good thing for our economy if we have a inflation. If we have a depreciating currency, exports will increase. Question 7 is looking at the primary goal of international trade. And you notice the primary gains or goals of international trade is to create more jobs in our economy. Question 8 is going to be looking at comparative advantage, and there's going to be 2 graphs involved. With this question, you want to make sure who has the comparative advantage by looking at the ratio of one good to another, and whoever has the lower opportunity cost will have the comparative advantage. Question 9 is looking at the G8 nations and how do they influence the value of the dollar? How could they influence the value of the dollar out of these different scenarios? Question 10. Which country has the largest share of total world exports? So make sure to look that up and figure out which country will have the largest total world exports. Question 11. What are some of the problems with the arguments with trade protection? Why do we want to protect free trade? How does that help American jobs? So if the government puts in these free trade agreements, what will be the benefit to our economy? So make sure to look at that. And then the last question is a depreciating U.S. dollar. How is that going to affect exports? And as we've listed, exports will increase and imports will decrease. How will that affect our economy if we export more? So those are some of the things that we're going to be focusing on this week in the week 7. So you're going to be focusing on the terminal course objectives for 8, 9, and 7 from chapters 37 and 38. If you have any questions, please let me know, but I look forward to your effort this week.